north. It had been a wonderful winter. Rory and Maya, two little puddle duck sisters, had spent their time at the theme parks in Florida. There were pretty pools and ponds, wild whooshing waterfalls, and trash cans overflowing with more bits of bread than their beaks could bite. Back home, they had a little pond where an old man threw corn kernels. It was nice, but Florida felt fantastic. Truly, it seemed like a paradise, and they both agreed it had been an excellent idea to fly south for winter. But two things told them it was time to head back north to Boston. The first was the swelling, sweltering sun. It suddenly soared, sizzling in the sky. The blacktops baked, and they nearly became roast ducks whenever they waddled across the blazing beaches. Still, they might have toughed it out, but one morning... "Come on in," said Rory, paddling in a pond. "The water's fine." "Cannonball!" shouted Maya, folding in her wings and waving her outrageously orange-flippered feet. She hit with a stupendous splash that soaked them both and made them laugh and laugh. "Maybe we never go back north." "Maybe not," said Rory. "Now it's my turn." She shook herself dry like a dog and waddled onto the shore. "Here comes the biggest cannonball you've ever seen. Wait, Maya, get out of the water." "Aw, come on," said Maya. "It can't be that big of a splash." "Flap your feathers!" Rory shouted, and right on her tiny tail, Maya heard a sudden whoosh of water. She turned in time to see a massive monster moving through the murky mud. "Quack!" she shouted in surprise, and flapped her wings wildly right into Rory's rear. The two puddle ducks tumbled beak over feet and landed in a tangled weave of wings near the water. The monster, long and green and scaly with a big mouth wide enough to swallow a watermelon whole, snapped at the water where they'd just been swimming. "It's a crocodile," said Rory. "No, it's an alligator," said Maya. "It's a crocodile." "It's an alligator." "It's a crocodile." It's coming this way!" They both quaked and quacked and flipped and flapped their wings and managed to get off the ground into the luckily low limbs of a massive mangy mangrove tree. The alligator, or was it a crocodile, yapped and snapped and twisted and hissed a few more times before giving up. Finally done and defeated, it prowled back into the pond. "So," said Maya, "maybe it's time we flew back north." "I was thinking the same thing," said Rory. They spent the rest of the morning saying goodbye to their friends, mostly flamingos, and then prepared for the long flight back to Boston. Early the next morning, as the day was dawning pretty and pink, they took to the sunrise skies. For the first few hours, it was just the two of them, but eventually they found a flock and fell into a flying V formation, other ducks all around them for safety and speed. "So hey," Maya said, turning to the feathered friend flapping beside her. "Where are you all heading anyway?" "We're going back to the mill in Maine," said the duck, his head a shiny green. "It's got a slow little stream and a perfect pond to one side. Best of all, lots of corn comes down when it's working." "That sounds nice," said Rory, "but Maine gets too cold for us." "Where do you two live?" "We've got a pond," said Maya. "It's a butte in Boston." "We'll fly with you that far and then we'll split off," said Rory. "Sounds good," said the duck with a smile on his beak. The trip north took a few weeks or so, but it was a fun flight. The ducks from Maine had lots of stories about their summer at Myrtle Beach, and they honked and hollered in hilarity when they heard the sister's story of the alligator, or was it a crocodile, that sent them hurrying home. Finally, they saw the familiar shape of home on the horizon. "This is Boston," said Rory. "Thanks for the trip," said Maya. The other ducks all quacked goodbye, and the duo split off and swiftly spiraled down to the pretty city they called home. "Okay," said Rory once they had landed on a little lawn. Now, which way is our pond? Said Maya, looking left and right and then up and down for good measure. It's, Come on, said Rory. It's sunny here. By now the old man is there throwing corn kernels. Well, then you tell me which way. I thought you knew. Well, I thought you knew. They flapped at each other, quacking questions until they were both bothered and breathless. I guess we'll just have to go look, said Maya. Where do we start? Asked Rory. Maya shrugged and flapped into the bright blue sunny sky, with Rory right behind her. They scanned the city for a bit and finally found a sparkling spring in the center of a schoolyard. They swooped down and landed lightly on the waiting water. This doesn't look like our old pond, said Rory. No, not quite, agreed Maya. But maybe it'll be just as good? They both inspected the spring. It was a round bowl about 100 wings wide, shallow with glittering pennies like pebbles on the bottom. The edges were done in some kind of shiny stone, and there was a solemn statue in the center. All around walked college kids, and some stopped to throw them a bit of bread or a handful of sunflower seeds. Hey, said Rory, munching down the seeds with bites of her busy beak. This place is pretty great. Yeah, agreed Maya. Maybe we can stay here for a thoom, splash. A huge jet of water shot out from underneath Maya, launching her quacking and quaking into the air. She flipped and flapped and finally flopped back into the water. What was that? She asked, aghast. Rory was laughing so hard that she couldn't answer, at least until thoom, splash! A second jet of water went off underneath Rory, and she too was blasted and basted into the air before coming down with a splashy crash. It's not a spring, said Maya. It's a fountain. Run away, shouted Rory. More beautiful blasts and jumping jets began as the fountain came to life for its hourly show. The ducks took to the skies, dodging pouring torrents and flapping for all they were worth. They finally managed to escape and made their wettish way to a sunny spot to dry off. Well, that was a failure, said Maya. You're telling me, said Rory. I won't need a bath for a week. They let the sun smooth their fruffled feathers. Finally dry, they took to the sky to try and find their pond, or at least someplace serene that wouldn't blow up underneath them. This time, they were in the air for a good long time, weaving around busy buildings that towered tall and avoiding cruising cars and tooting trains. They flapped their weary wings until they were just outside the city and saw a beautiful sprawl of green underneath them. There was grassy green and grazing green and traffic light go-go green, all brushy bushes and lazy lawns and tilted trees. And there, right in the middle, was a perfect pond. It was swirly-shaped like a curling cloud. It had some algae on top and was ringed by reeds. Hey, said Rory, that looks like a good spot. Let's check it out, Maya agreed. They landed lightly with just a spot of splashing and then started to hunt around. It was a warm and marshy little pond with bunches of bugs and gallons of grass to eat. Everything was spring sweet and would no doubt sprout even bigger. This is a great pond, said Maya. Maybe even better than our old one. Yeah, said Rory. Who needs an old man with corn when you've got 1,000,000 mosquitoes to munch? And look at this! Maya pulled back some reeds and showed Rory a cluster of dirty and dimpled golf balls. Whoa, are those eggs? Asked Rory, who, being a duck, had never played golf in all her life. Well, they gotta be eggs, Maya, also a duck, agreed. And look, there's more over there. And over there, too, said Rory. And look, even more under the water. This must be a nice place to live if everyone is coming here to lay their eggs. Practically paradise, Rory agreed. 4! Someone shouted from nearby. A second later, a golf ball came in whizzing wildly, and splashed into the pond between them with a chunky kerplunk. Did a bird just lay an egg while it was still flying? Asked Rory. I guess so. What else could it be? Mulligan! Came another shout, and another bouncing ball popped into the pond. Rory squawked, and Maya crept closer and bobbed it with her beak. Oh, these aren't eggs at all, she said. They're some kind of plastic. At this point, the golf course driving range was open, and a dozen golfers all started to hit their balls, oblivious to the unlucky duckies. They splashed down around the pond, sending up flumes and plumes of murky water. One whiffed right by Rory's head, close enough to fluff her feathers. It's a barrage! Maya yelled. Every duck for themselves! Cried Rory. The balls kept dashing down and the ducks took to the sky. They dipped and ducked and dove and dodged and finally flapped their way to freedom. That was a close one, said Maya. We're never going to find our pond, said Rory, suddenly sniffling. It's all crocodiles and blasting fountains and freaky flying egg balls. It was an alligator, said Maya, but she didn't say it very loudly. The sisters soared together through the city, and finally, when they couldn't flip another flap, settled down on top of an old brownstone building. Not knowing what else to do, and with night coming on, they huddled and cuddled together, wings around each other. It was a rough night being without any water, and though they thought all night, they still didn't know how to find their pond. Until the next morning, when Maya woke up to a strangely familiar scent. She sniffed, her head lifting higher and breathing in until her beak was near bursting. Rory, she said. Rory, do you smell that? Rory, still half asleep, started sniffing at the air. Then her eyes sprung open. It's corn kernels! I smell the sweet yellow corn kernels! And look, said Maya, pointing with pride. There's the old man! He's carrying them! Is it our old man? Only one way to find out. They flapped after the old man carrying the corn kernels. He walked slow and steady, winding through the city streets and waving and helloing passers-by. Finally, just when the sisters were ready to give up, he passed down through a sleepy side street and came to a pond. Their pond! Honking with pure joy, the ducks splashed into their old home, safe at last. Oh, hello, girls, the old man said. You're finally back. Would you like some corn? Maya and Rory both quacked happily. The old man threw the corn into the water and they could finally relax. Are there crocodiles in Boston? Rory asked. It was an alligator, said Maya. Are there alligators in Boston? Only at the zoo. I love it here, Rory said, and they floated away the rest of the day, swimming sweetly towards the summer. The end.